Longhorn Nation, Sooner fans, welcome to episode 90 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Oklahoma and the University of Texas. I'm here with my man, Kevin Miller. I am John Whitson. Kevin, for the first time since 2009, the University of Texas has 10 wins. You are on the verge of your first Big 12 championship since 2009. And the Iowa State Cyclones did not want to yield, especially with the help of the Big 12 referees who did not want to cede this 10-win season to you. Yet you pulled out victoriously 26-16, despite having a A.D. Mitchell touchdown called back for holding, a Xavier Worthy 85-yard punt return called back for a mysterious block in the back. It did not matter. You overcame. You are 10-2 on the season, a win over Alabama on the road. All you have left between here in Arlington and a potential shot at the college football playoff is the Texas Tech Red Raiders at home on the Friday after Thanksgiving. Kevin, how does it feel to be sitting in the driver's seat, to be one win away from a Big 12 championship game, and to be the clear and undisputed leader in the conference?
Well, it feels great. And you said we're 10-2. We're actually 10-1. 10-1.
Right. 10-2. 10-2. You got two losses.
No,
you just have one loss?
Yeah,
just have one loss?
You guys. Just y'all. Y'all the only one, only
blemish.
Oh
my gosh. I
on
stand
an otherwise
corrected.
Perfect season. Yeah.
I stand corrected. I hope that is not a precursor or a premonition. I stand corrected. Your only loss to the University of Oklahoma on October 7th, 2023, 34-30. Last second play to Nick Anderson. But you're correct. You are correct. 10-1. It's got to feel pretty good right now, man.
Yeah, it does, man. It's been a long time since we've had a season like this, right? And the team, they just keep finding ways to win. You know, I was really impressed by how they played yesterday, right? There are a couple things, of course, like with every game, the things are going to drive you crazy and just frustrate you overall. But no, I thought we had a very efficient performance. It was a professional win, right? You go up there on a road. It was a very hostile environment. I thought they did a really good job of running the football. C.J. Baxter looked great. Getting the bulk of the carries for the first time in his young career. He did a really good job, over 100 yards rushing. I thought Quinn did a good job. He was shaky in the first quarter, right? He had a couple near interceptions in the first quarter, but once he settled in, I thought he was really good. And our receivers made plays. Offensive line did a good job, and the defense was great. They let up one touchdown on that pop pass on fourth down to the tight end. It's a great play design by them.
Yeah,
it was a great play design. I mean, it looked like they were just trying to get us to jump offside, right? With it being because they kind of ran to the line quick, and then the quarterback kind of got the snap and ran forward, and then just kind of a jump pass to the tight end. It was a great call. But other than that, I thought our defense was great. We covered well. We tackled well. We gave up some yards, but again, no big plays at all other than that one. So, yeah, man, I was really impressed by them. I'm really excited about where the team is going.
I thought you're right. After the first quarter, Quinn was very efficient, ending up 23 for 33, 281 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. You're going up against a Texas Tech team that, I mean, has had this date circled pretty much since last season ended. Everybody's been talking about it. Texas Tech has absolutely freaking nothing to lose. Nothing. They can come in and throw the entire playbook at you. They can go trick plays. They can go zero blitz. They can do it all. Are you concerned at all about what Texas Tech could potentially throw at you? Or do you feel like the team is beyond the games that can be played by a lesser opponent like a Texas Tech?
Oh, no, I think you always have to be aware of what they can do because of what you just said, right? Nothing to lose. They can throw the whole playbook. They can be throwing all types of reverses and every trick play in the book, and just for the role of playing spoiler, right? And for them, their season has not gone the way that they hoped it would go. But all can be forgotten with a win over Texas and keeping them potentially out of the conference championship game. So yeah, we have to be aware of that. But I think the team will be prepared and ready to go.
Well, if we take by the way, Oklahoma with a road win over BYU, we'll talk more about that, 31-24. Real quick, just thank God for Billy Bowman and a close second of Danny Stutzman. They just were absolute studs in the game. I'll share my experiences when we recap the BYU, but it was a great trip overall. But before we jump into the national look back, I want to go through the Big 12 championship scenarios. Right, we've got 1 week left, so there's still even at this point in recording. We're recording at 3:30 on Sunday afternoon. There is still questions over what could possibly happen with who, and if this team wins and this team wins and this team wins. The tiebreakers is still causing people a ton of heartache. For the University of Texas, it is very
really inexcusable from the Big 12 conference, by the way, that we're a week out from the conference championship game and there's still questions on the scenarios. This should be crystal clear. And the Big 12 needs to put this out, right? Like the NFL every year, okay, they put out this thing. If this team wins, if this team loses, if this team gets in, that's how it all works. For us to be sitting here and still unsure over the scenarios, to me, is just completely inexcusable by the Big 12 conference.
Well, yeah, I mean, they clarified it last week, and we all made fun of them because it was just stupid. But now that we're here, I don't know. I just think that the league is so close right now, wins and losses, that it's creating just a bunch of confusion, and one game can have a ginormous impact on the entire standings. But I think for Texas, they've got the clearest, easiest, most likely path to the Big 12 championship game. You win and you're in. To be able to control your own destiny must feel really, really good, especially when it's a home game against Texas Tech.
It does, because usually, if we're even in the conversation, we're playing for the conference. It's like, all right, well, if this team loses and then that team beats that team, then we're in. Now it's nice to just have it completely in your own hands.
So for Oklahoma, in order to be first in the Big 12, which I don't think it matters. I mean, we're just trying to get into the game, but this is the way this article was set up that I was reading. If you're first in the Big 12, you've got to get there with a win over TCU, a Texas loss, and an OSU loss. That puts Oklahoma as the number 1 seed. Just to get in the game, you can either happen with a Texas win and an OSU loss. So in this case, Oklahoma fan actually wants Texas to win and OSU to lose. Because if it's the other way around with a Texas loss and an OSU win, it knocks Oklahoma out. The other one is a Texas loss, an OSU win, and a K-State loss, which is most likely the hardest thing to happen, because I think K-State, remind me of who K-State plays.
I'll pull up their schedule. Keep going.
So anyway, my point is Oklahoma needs a lot of help. First of all, they've got to beat what has been a very bipolar TCU team that either loses by a lot or wins by a lot, right? They have been up and down all year. It's been very odd. Played y'all to the last minute of the game, 26-23. I think the difference is going to be Oklahoma's at home, but we've got to talk about it because we might or might not have Dylan Gabriel, might or might not have Jalil Farouk. So there's a couple things that could impact that game. However, it doesn't matter.
Kansas State hosts Iowa State. So they'll be playing Iowa State in Manhattan next Saturday night.
Well, so then if you're Oklahoma, if OSU wins, you're rooting for a Texas loss and a K-State loss.
Yeah.
But like I said, Oklahoma can still get in with a Texas win. And if Oklahoma if it's the scenario where you get a Texas win and an OSU loss, you have a rematch of the Red River Shootout. So that's the Boomer Bevo podcast is rooting for that for obvious reasons. There is the Oklahoma side that says they'd rather play Oklahoma State. But there's not a lot of scenarios. Well, the scenario that gives you a Bedlam rematch is the Texas loss, the OSU win, and the K-State loss.
Correct.
That gives you a Bedlam rematch. So if you're rooting for a Bedlam rematch, you want that. If you're rooting for a Texas rematch, you want a Texas win and an OSU loss. And then if you want to play K-State, you're rooting for a Texas loss and an OSU loss and a K-State win.
And remember, Oklahoma State has BYU.
Oklahoma State has BYU, who even despite 31-24, a close game against Oklahoma, I still don't think they're that great. Their quarterback didn't really have
they're not a
great
good
stats.
team. No. I thought he did some good things, but we'll get into that.
We'll get into that. Anyway, it's very confusing. But at the end of the day, Texas, you win and you're in. And I think that's the key takeaway for Texas fan. For Oklahoma fan, you can't worry about anything else. You have to go beat TCU, and whatever happens, happens. If you beat TCU and you end up 10-2 in the regular season and you fall short, it can be a disappointment. I will be disappointed if we don't make the Big 12, but I will be able to get over it with a 10-2.
Yeah,
if we go out and fall on our face and lose to TCU, I'm going to be pissed at 9-3. I'm going to be pissed.
Correct. It's not that 9-3 is a horrible season, but it's how you got there, right? Where it looked like you could be.
Absolutely.
After the Red River Shootout win over Texas, you're undefeated. At that point, you're top 10 in the country. It looked like you were a potential college football playoff national championship contender. So I get that. Again, the BYU game, it's at Stillwater Saturday at 2:30.
So the OU game will be over, right? Because it's an 11. The OU game is played on Friday.
Yeah, Friday morning. Texas plays Friday night, by the way, same night. So,
wow. Okay. In national games, number 1 Georgia blew out Tennessee 38-10. This makes 28 games in a row for Georgia, tying an SEC record for most consecutive wins. I believe USC, the 04-05 USC teams had 31 wins in a row. And then the very next, that was in second place all time. And then, of course, the all-time leader is Oklahoma at 47. Here's the thing that makes the Georgia win even more impressive, even I think than the USC win, is that Georgia has had to do it in an era with a conference championship and a playoff scenario every year. They've had to win in the playoff. So that's really impressive. 28 wins in a row in the SEC. Man. And I don't even care if they're getting a weak SEC schedule. It doesn't matter. Dude, they still have to play Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida, Missouri. Dude, they're still playing teams.
Yeah, exactly. At least you're playing teams with good players, right? Even if they aren't necessarily elite teams, that there's talent on all those teams that they're playing. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy, man.
They're going to end their season against Georgia Tech and then a matchup against Alabama in the SEC championship game. I mean, Texas has all eyes on that game, obviously, because of the implications. The prevailing thought, it seems like on Twitter and on most of the college football shows on TV, is that Alabama will jump Texas. I think it's just clickbait. I still can't get over I can't envision a scenario where a team that loses to a team jumps them.
You know what, man? I see what you're saying, but I've got concerns just because the way Texas has looked. I've been happy with how we've been playing, but from the national standpoint, if they beat Georgia, the number 1 team in the country, I just see them putting in Alabama over Texas. I will be pissed, but I'm already preparing myself for it. And I've said it for the last 3 weeks on here.
I know. I can't see that. And maybe it's because I don't want Oklahoma to ever be in that position and it happen. Not once we're going to a 12-team playoff, I think it's the last year that's likely to happen. It would be really kind of weird there, if you're the 12th team in, for it to be as big a deal. But the top 4, you went to Alabama and you beat them. I don't want to be the attorney for Texas on this deal, but it just shouldn't even matter. You went to Alabama and beat them. So I don't even know what we're talking about. Ohio State beats Minnesota 37-3, setting up a 2 versus 3 matchup against Michigan, who holds on to beat Maryland 31-24, but does notch their 1,000th program win. Michigan's a blue blood, but they haven't won a lot in a long time. Are you excited about Ohio State, Michigan?
Oh, man. I mean, talking about game of the season stuff, it's all on the line. We've seen this from them, a few times over the last few years when both teams were undefeated. I think back in 06, We had a similar matchup with them. Remember that with Troy Smith
absolutely.
playing quarterback for Ohio State, and they're both undefeated. Yeah, so it's like who's gonna make the playoff, and we'll find out, man. It's a massive game. There's so much on the line. The fact that Jim Harbaugh will not be on the sidelines coaching is a huge deal, right? And I think we saw a little bit of it this week against Maryland. And we'll see if that's something Ohio State can take advantage of, man. But I'm looking forward to this game, and I'll be all over it Saturday morning.
The biggest loss of the week by a top 10, top 20 team came in a win, Florida State over North Alabama, 58-13. The win pales, however, with the loss of quarterback Jordan Travis to a ugly knee injury. This did not look good. It is not good. He is clearly out for the season. They looked okay. Their backup looked fine, but again, it's against North Alabama. They've got to go face a Florida team who just gave Missouri all they could handle. It's a rivalry game. It's a big deal. I know you, Texas fan. This is not what I'm saying. Wants to capitalize on an injury like this. However, does this kind of open that door for Texas to think if we can win out, that's one team we don't have to worry about in Florida State?
It does, right? And like you said, I really don't want it this way.
No,
It was heartbreaking
year.
seeing that. He's having a great year. He's had a really good career for them. They're having a dream season, right? For this to happen, I mean, I think it's like a lower leg type deal. I'm sure he probably broke both bones in his lower leg. I saw him bring out the air cast out there. I mean, it was a horrific looking injury. It's one of those ones that they're not even showing replays of on a lot of the shows. It was that bad. So again, they were down 13-0 in North Alabama, but there was no way they were going to lose to North Alabama, like you said, even with the backup. But Florida is a good team, where they got good players. And
now, is their quarterback hurt? Did their quarterback get hurt too, though?
He got hurt too, though. Yeah, I think he broke his collarbone.
So does that maybe that balances it out?
Maybe so. Yeah, I don't know who their backup is. I have no clue who they've got running.
Who will Florida State play in that? Because losing to Florida won't affect them getting into the they're in the ACC championship.
Yeah, it'll be against Louisville.
See, now that could be where it comes to play, right?
Correct.
Maybe not even the Florida game, but maybe that Louisville game in 2 weeks. That could be what.
Yeah, Louisville had a pretty impressive performance. They went down and beat Miami down, and Miami's always up and down, but they played very well yesterday. And again, it took everything that they had, but they were able to get the win on the road.
38-31.
Yeah.
Yep, 38-31.
So it's setting up to be a pretty good game, but man, without Jordan Travis, we'll see what they can scheme up, right? I'm sure they're going to be talking about the whole Cardell Jones deal, right? They got your third string quarterback coming in, and they win the Natty with him, right? They win the conference championship game, and they win 2 playoff games with the backup quarterback. So, man, we'll see. We'll see, man. I wish them well.
Washington over Oregon State. 22-20 in a deluge, in a I couldn't believe there was as many fans in the stands as there were. Like, it just looked awful. Yet it didn't keep Michael Penix. He didn't have great numbers, but he was still slinging it all over the field. He went 13 for 25 for 162 yards and 2 touchdowns. DJ Uiagalelei, 15 of 31 for 164. Unfortunately, he had 2 interceptions. Washington pulls it out in the end. Look, dude, they talk about magical season. Washington is having a year, right? Where they are just figuring out how to win games. I love Michael Penix. We were talking about it off air. They needed a big throw. It didn't matter, rain or no rain. They were putting it in his hands to go ahead and win the game, and he did it. Every time.
And the way that they trust him and that they trust those receivers, right? It's 4th and 1. They look like they're going to run a bunch from it, and they just spread everybody out, and they just go one-on-one, and they're throwing back shoulder throws to their receivers who are well covered, but they just trust both of those guys to make plays, and they just delivered all season long. Look, they beat Oregon, they beat USC, which really doesn't mean much now. But this Oregon State team, it's a good team, right? Just right outside the top 10, and to beat them on the road in those environments. I've already said this before. I thought they should have been number 4 over Florida State just because they have a better resume, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if they're ranked number 4 in the college football playoff rankings this week. Not just because of the Travis injury, but just, how long are we going to just let this happen where they keep winning against good teams? And
teams that the playoff committee's ranking, right?
correct.
The playoff committee ranked Oregon State where they ranked them.
Correct. And they're beating them. They beat Oregon. They beat Oregon State. They got to be number 4 this week. It has to be.
I agree. Penix, the numbers weren't necessarily Heisman worthy, but the win was. Getting that win keeps him on track. But speaking of Heisman candidates, the Oregon Ducks demolish ASU 49-13 in the opposite of a deluge, probably the best weather in the country. He goes for 404 yards and 6 touchdowns. All this kid does is put up crazy, ridiculous stats at Oregon. Now, the interesting part about Oregon is if you look at the updated standings, they have not beaten a top 25 team. You and I think they can play with anybody in the country. I think they can play with, including Georgia, including Ohio State. I think they can play with anybody in the country. However, the argument is made that if they get put up against a Texas team who can show their record and their top 25 wins versus an Oregon team and their top 25 wins, that could be a plus in the column for Texas if Oregon is somehow able to beat Washington in a Pac-12 championship game.
Yeah, I agree with that. If you watch both teams play, right, you look at it, I would say I think Oregon might be a better football team than Texas, right? When you actually watch them. But
without even taking a shot at Quinn, this is not just my typical take a shot at Quinn comment. I mean, Bo Nix is a better quarterback than Quinn Ewers right now. This year.
I mean, the only guy you could even say is as good has been Penix and maybe Caleb Williams, right?
Yeah.
But as far as teams with that record, for sure. But when you look at the resume of both teams, I do think that Texas has an more impressive resume.
I think
they do have a better loss, though. Losing that close game to Washington, losing to Oklahoma. No harm in losing to Oklahoma, but the fact that Washington is undefeated and Oklahoma has 2 losses, so I will give them that you have the better loss if that's a thing.
If we just lost the game to somehow screw Texas, then maybe it was worth it. I don't know. Probably not. Alabama in their late season cupcake game win 66-10. Jalen Milroe goes for 197 and 3 touchdowns. They should roll against Auburn. Auburn just lost to New Mexico State.
At home, by the way.
At home in one of these games where they pay the school to show up, like a $1.5 million. That's a disaster. Who's coaching Auburn again? Remind me.
Hugh Freeze is that first year.
Oh, that's right. We talked about it. Well, good. I'm glad you lost you. Alabama will kill Auburn in the
31-10. By the way, they didn't just lose.
I didn't even write the score down. 31-10.
Yes.
I don't even want to think about what Milroe's going to do then. Whatever the game is, I'm taking Alabama.
Here's how they're going to spin this, right? They'll say that Nick Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe his first year at Alabama. That's just what that's what they'll say here. Rome wasn't built overnight.
Yeah. Well, I don't even have a comeback for that because it's so stupid because Auburn sucks. And I don't see a scenario where they're getting any better. And the problem is you add an Oklahoma and a Texas into that conference and Auburn just falls further down on the pecking list. Correct. Right. So Auburn always was able to say, hey, we're not Alabama, but we're in the SEC. Come play for us. Now they have to say, well, we're not Alabama and we're not Georgia and we're not Oklahoma and we're not Texas and we're not LSU. And sometimes we're not Ole Miss. And heck, even some of the time, obviously, we're not even Missouri. And, maybe we're not even Florida. And don't forget Tennessee. And even Kentucky's better than we are. So come play for us because we're in the SEC. It just doesn't work that way anymore, right? They had their shot at glory with Cam Newton, and they took advantage of it. Good for them. They won a national championship.
Dream season.
Speaking of the SEC, Missouri and Florida, barn burner, 33-31. Florida is up 31-30. Last play of the game, 4th and 17. Missouri's got 4th and 17, and if they don't complete it, the game's over. And Florida allows them to pick up a 4th and 17 right over the middle of the field.
Luther Burton, big time receiver.
Well, and I'll tell you what, Theo Wease had a big play in this game here for Missouri too. Theo Wease had a big time play in this game. And then Missouri wins it on a last-second field goal at home. I'll tell you what, Missouri's had a very good year. They should be really fired up with how they've been. It's going to be interesting to see kind of what bowl game that they can get. But yeah, they've done really well. Now, who will Missouri end up? Who will they end up playing against? Who's their final game against? You have any idea?
Let me check. No, I don't.
Arkansas, maybe?
That would make sense to see.
That would make sense. While you're looking that up, Penn State beats Rutgers 27-6. I got to tell you, man, I go through these Big Ten scores every week, and outside of Ohio State and Michigan, it's just like blah, blah, blah. I could care less. And the game was boring too. It's boring.
Right,
It's just
that offense, and they fire their coordinator. Look, the offense not going to get any better when you fire your coordinator at this point in the season. They're hard to watch, man. They really are. Even Michigan,
terrible.
They focus more on defense and running the football, but I can watch Michigan play. Penn State is hard to watch, man.
It's hard to watch. And so even in a win, Ole Miss beat Louisiana Monroe 35-3, LSU, Georgia State 56-14. Big time game in the Big Ten, big scoring up and down the field. Iowa beats Illinois 15-13. Kevin, what is happening in the Big Ten? I'm telling you, dude, it's unwatchable football. It's unwatchable football.
In the Big Ten West, I mean, just you want to talk about the most unwatchable football you can imagine. The whole division's bad.
Yeah,
it's rough, man. And the fact that one of these teams gets to play for the conference, so we get to see Ohio State or Michigan play against the likes of either Iowa,
could be
Illinois.
Could be Iowa.
Yeah, probably will be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it may have already been clinched.
Unbelievable. I'll tell you what, BYU fan was they left the Oklahoma game encouraged with how they played because they felt like their team didn't give up and they fought all the way to the end and they played a really good game. They came up a little bit.
I thought it was a great performance from BYU.
So they were okay with the loss. They weren't. I mean, nobody wants to lose. They were okay. However, their spirits were greatly buoyed by Arizona throttling Utah 42-18. Listen, you think we hate each other, Kevin? You think Oklahoma fan and Texas fan can't stand each other? I continue to remind you, BYU fan and Utah fan absolutely hate each other. There were so many Utah fans at the game that were trolling BYU fan by having a Utah hat and an Oklahoma shirt on. Like they were just,
oh my God,
they were just trolling.
Petty.
Oh, dude, so petty. They hate each other, man. They absolutely hate each other.
Joe Young, who did a great job, who joined us for our preview episode, kind of hinted at that. I felt like he kind of took it easy on Utah fan he's trying to be a little bit professional, but I got the sense that there's no love lost between BYU fans and Utah fans.
Dude, I will be unprofessional. They absolutely hate each other. They are miserable to each other, and it's palpable, dude. The score. One of the loudest cheers of the day was when the scoreboard showed up on the screen, an early score. They just can't stand them. But whatever. Notre Dame beat Wake Forest 45-7. Clemson, I think, was a favorite, and we had talked about whether they should have been a favorite or not. Beats North Carolina 31-20. So Dabo's got it. He's silencing the critics. He's got it rolling. Matt Brown takes another loss. K-State, Kansas. Oklahoma needed K-State to lose. It would have really helped some of the situation out. Might not have guaranteed them getting in, but would have helped with some of the tiebreakers. Instead, K-State beats Kansas 31-27 in what was a very good football game. Kansas on their third quarterback.
I'm going to give more credit to Kansas and to their head coach, Lance Leipold. He's done a tremendous job, man. To think with this team with their third string quarterback, and they were winning for a big part of that game, right? This is a very, very even football game. I think the experience of Will Howard and the rest of those guys on the K-State offense pulled them through at the end. But no, I was really impressed with Neil Highshaw and, of course, their quarterback. He did a really good job. So, man, he's a really good coach. At this point, what else does he have to show, right? I'd be surprised if he's at Kansas next year.
Yes, I think you leave Kansas for whatever job it is you take. I don't know what job it is that he wants. I don't think it's Michigan State. I think Kansas is a better gig than Michigan State. Who else is fired? A&M? Could he go to A&M? I mean, he's going to get paid.
Would he be big enough for them? Would they want him? I mean, it's shown he can build a program. It's just he hasn't had the pressure that A&M would provide, though.
I mean, imagine the talent base. I mean, at Kansas, he does not get to pull from that talent base. And he has done a tremendous job with guys that had no business performing as well as they did. Highshaw, all those dudes.
Yeah, Neil's the guy. He's from Lawrence, Kansas. Neil
So
is, right? So it's not like he was some 5-star guy.
A&M's crazy if they don't interview him. I mean, I'm not
I
saying they
agree.
like have to hire him, but he needs to be on the list. He needs to be
Did
on
you
the
hear the
list.
interview trailer? The interview Jeff trailer?
You said that last week that they were one of the guys they were
interviewed
looking at.
Jeff trailer. Yeah, they interviewed him, I believe, on Thursday.
I don't know. That seems like a weird hire. I just think that's a weird hire, but
Yeah, I think he at least deserves. He warrants an interview from them.
okay.
I don't
All
think
right,
he should be the guy. I'm not saying he should be the guy. I'm not saying that. I feel like if you're Texas A&M, you got to start at the top and work your way down. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have a board, right? Just like
Yeah.
teams do with players when the draft is coming up or when it comes to recruits, they got a board.
Let me ask you
I'm
this.
sure he's not high on their board.
We haven't talked about the USC game. We'll get there, but is Lincoln Riley's? Has he floated his name over to A&M to maybe try to start over?
You know what? At this point, would you be surprised? I wouldn't be surprised.
He's a Texas guy. Maybe he talks about his Texas roots, the whole deal. Says I can recruit Texas. I've always recruited Texas. This, that, and the other. I know how the Big 12.
They'd hire him. I think if he's interested, I think they'd hire him. I do.
You think they hire him after going 7-5?
I think they would. Correct. Yeah. I honestly think that they would.
Okay. All right. Let's.
I'm not saying they should. No. But I think they would hire him.
Would not Oklahoma and Texas fan be fired up if they hired Lincoln Riley?
Oh, it would be crazy, man.
We'd be drooling, dude. We'd be drooling to play that team.
Yeah.
I
just want to see I'm curious to see how his recruiting would be at Texas A&M.
He would recruit wide receivers. He would recruit wide receivers and quarterbacks. That's what he would recruit.
He's got to, whatever he does, whether it's at A&M or if he stays at SC, man, he's got to get a better recruiting staff because it's not happening, man. That's been the biggest shock. Even more shocking than them going 7-5 this year is the lack of elite recruiting that they've done.
They lost 38-20 in a battle of probably the best looking uniforms in college football.
It looks great when they both wear their home jerseys like that.
Kevin, they had 3 total rushing yards for USC. 3 total rushing yards. You got your score wrong on the screen, by the way. UCLA beat them 38-20.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
And according to reports, it wasn't that close. I don't know how a team can only have 3 rushing yards. Their leading rusher, Marshawn Lloyd, had 8 carries for 17 yards. So, I mean, some of that was getting sacked or whatever. Listen, I said it last week. I've been saying it now for a couple, 3 weeks. What the heck's he going to do next year when he doesn't have Caleb Williams?
I know, man. It's stay tuned.
Like there's look, he didn't have Baker, and then he gets Kyler Murray, okay? And then he doesn't get Kyler Murray. Then he brings in the transfer portal, fair enough, Jalen Hurts, who you've always talked about was probably his best coaching job was Jalen Hurts. But since Jalen Hurts and that trip to the playoff against LSU, it has been a downhill slide every single year. And with highly recruited quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler, 2 years now or 3 years now with Caleb Williams, every year has been a little worse than the next. Malachi, is it Malachi Nelson? Who's that quarterback?
Nelson. Yeah, no,
Malachi Nelson. Hey, dude, he's a stud. I'm sure he is, right? We wanted him at OU. This is nothing about that kid.
Yeah, he was going to OU. Correct.
I have no idea who this kid is, except I can say with pretty safe assurance, he's no Caleb Williams. He's not Caleb Williams. Like, he's not going to roll out his freshman year and go beat Oregon, Washington, Oregon, Washington, UCLA, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. It's not going to happen. So I don't know what's going to happen there. And it is turning less of a vengeful, spiteful thing for OU fan. And I really believe this, and more of just kind of like a situation that we just kind of sit back and go, my God, this is really happening. Everything
all that crappy talk, and a lot of that was not, was just based out of analysis.
Sure.
And it's like, oh no, you guys are actually correct, even though, it's crazy. It's crazy how this has turned out.
You know how fans are, man. We all talk trash, and we all come up with some crazy narrative to explain why we're not as good. This is what was holding us back. And whether it's sour grapes or just what, it doesn't matter. and it's like, oh, KD's never going to win. And then he goes and wins 2 titles in Golden State, right? It's like we really wanted him to be the one that brought him down. I mean, that was never going to happen. But that's the kind of things people say, fans say, not just Oklahoma fan. But Oklahoma fan, it's like you go back and look at the receipts, dude, and it's like, oh, we'll be better off with Brent Venables. They're going to be terrible on defense. Caleb Williams will never play for this. Just go down the list, and it's just like things that people outside Oklahoma was going, those people are insane. They have no concept of what's happening, and now it's like, holy crap! Does that make sense? Though it's not so.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah,
so
all that crap y'all were talking ended up being correct.
I just don't. I've heard rumors, and I'm sure they're rumors, but tell me if you've heard the same thing. He's lost the locker room. The players
haven't heard that.
Okay, well, and again, you just hear the stuff, but it kind of looks like UCLA is not that good, dude. That you should be losing 38-20 at home.
They're about to fire Chip Kelly. What are you talking about? No,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. And then, I mean, you look at it, right? Caleb Williams, 31 of 42, 384 yards and 1 touchdown. He got sacked 4 times. And if he gets sacked 4 times, that means he, a normal quarterback probably would have got sacked 10.
Yeah.
He's Houdini when it comes to escaping pressure.
There is not a more Jalen Milroe might be a better downfield runner, okay? Because Jalen Milroe is a freak. But there's nobody as good as Caleb Williams in the pocket. Nobody.
No one is as elusive in the pocket as Caleb Williams. I mean, I can't tell you if I've ever seen anybody, and I'm not trying to be, prisoner of the moment here, but this man escapes pressure better than anybody I've ever seen. We saw it from his first big appearance, right? In the first play he comes in on that 4th down, we had him dead to rights in the pocket. He gets away and then takes it to the house for a touchdown. I'm like, what the heck just happened?
Yeah.
Seriously, I mean, I never even saw Vince Young do anything like that.
No, I mean, look, I'm sure that there's a prisoner of the moment aspect to it, but he's in the top 5, like all timers, like of just, and it just furthers your point though, right? If Oklahoma fan who's been really hard on, USC, and Texas fan who you in particular, who's been a Caleb Williams fan, but you're not going to fawn all over him for no reason. I mean, we are sitting here saying one of the greatest college quarterbacks we've ever seen, and the dude went 7-5, Kevin. 7-5.
Never even played for a conference title.
He played Utah. Utah beat him last year.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
Utah beat him last year.
Yeah, but never won a conference, never made the playoff.
Nope.
And it's crazy, right? I mean, at least with you guys, right? Your best players that you've ever had, at least your best quarterbacks. Kyler Murray playoff. Baker Mayfield playoff. Sam Bradford played for a national championship, right?
Jason White played for 2. Yeah.
Correct.
Adrian Peterson was in 1. Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Correct. Yeah. Right. Vince Young won a natty. Colt McCoy played for 1. Right. So I mean, when you have historically good players, you at least want to make it count. Right. Yeah. And OU has made it count. Right. I feel like obviously you should have won a natty with one of those guys, but at least you were in the mix. They were not even in the mix.
Well,
it's disappointing, man, for someone who's a fan of him.
It's you talk about the one that got away was the one with Baker. Bob Stoops coaches that team, and who's to know? I mean, I think we liked Lincoln as a play caller. He was great. He was still been calling those plays against Georgia, but I think the calls would have been different, especially at the end of the game. I think Baker probably at least plays for a national title in the finals. But anyway, regardless, enough about that. It's just crazy. It's going to continue to be a fascinating story. And he goes to A&M. Oh my God, I love it. All right, closing out scores. Oh well, we need to talk about this one. This game had Oklahoma Big 12 implications all over it. Oklahoma State was down the entire first half to Houston, and you got the feeling that, man, this was going to go the direction of the UCF game. Oklahoma State was going to fall on their face. Well, Mike Gundy finally realized that he actually has Ollie Gordon in the backfield, and maybe let's just give him the ball. In the first half, he rushed for a total of 33 yards. He ended the game with 164 yards and 3 touchdowns. The dude is really, really, really good. And if Oklahoma State can just get out of his way, I don't see how they lose to BYU. I hope they do. Oklahoma needs him to, but I don't know who's stopping. I didn't see anybody on BYU's team that's stopping Ollie Gordon.
No, me neither. Me neither, man. He's a really good football player. We talked about him the whole season, right? Told you how I wish Texas would have gotten him because he's just a special player with that size and that speed. He's tough. He can be a workhorse running back too. So Houston, though, you're right. We saw this kind of against Texas. We've seen this throughout the season. They come out with their hair on fire sometimes, and man, it did not look good for Oklahoma State early. I mean, Houston,
I
they're
don't.
throwing reverse passes to the quarterback for touchdowns and everything, man. So 23-9, they got a safety. I don't know if you saw that. Oklahoma State had the ball deep in their own territory, and they hand it off to Gordon, and they smack him in the end zone for a safety. It's 23-9 at that point. And remember, they're kicking off after the safety to Houston, and there's a minute and 30, left in the half, and then they throw an interception, they score, and then they get another turnover and score. So next thing you know, it's like 29-20, really quick. So, and then they just dominated in the second half. So I thought it was an impressive win for them after being down, especially on the road. Not that Houston is some kind of big time environment, but it's on the road.
No, you lose the way you did to UCF a week prior, and you get down like that. It's inevitable for there to be a give up factor kick in, and it's not just kind of the nature of sports, but it didn't kick in. And I got to tell you, I think Houston was a much better shot for Oklahoma State losing than BYU. So
right.
Oklahoma fans looking at this week going, we got to win against TCU. Speaking of TCU, they beat Baylor 42-17, and then Texas Tech beats UCF 24-23. So both the teams we're playing are coming off with wins. I've gone
Dave Aranda done and Baylor. It hasn't gone well since that first year with Matt Rule's
players.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they should fire him. If they're smart, they fire him. You got to call it, and they need to call it. It's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse.
Well, if they fire him, man, Lincoln Riley needs to call him and get him to LA.
That's not a bad idea. Dude, he's a tough-minded guy, but I mean, I don't know. He looks like the kind of dude that just needs to be focused on one thing at a time. He doesn't look like if he sat in a job interview that you'd be like, hey, can you handle multiple things? And he goes, yeah, absolutely, I can. No, it's like, hey, do you do one thing really well at a time? Yes, I do. Okay, great. Go call defensive plays. Like, that's what you need to do. I think he can.
Here's his head coaching record real quick: 2-7, 12-2 in 2021. 6-7 last year, and then 3-7 this year.
Yeah, it's just not good.
No.
It's not good enough at Baylor, especially when Baylor has you've seen the ability to win at Baylor, obviously under Bryles, but then even under Matt Rule, and then even under Aranda. Like, it is possible to win at Baylor. They've got the resources. They want to win. You're now don't have to go up against Texas or Oklahoma, which, by the way, wasn't necessarily your roadblock every year. So
correct.
It should be an opportunity to get back into the place in the league.
Then that's 12-2 year. I mean, they won the Sugar Bowl. They won the conference and won the Sugar Bowl.
The 12-2 year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Big 12 champions and won the Sugar Bowl. And then 6-7 last year. They were ranked 10.
They beat Oklahoma State on a 1-inch stop at the goal line. I mean, it was crazy. Right. One of the closest ever game-ending plays. All right.
We've all had heartbreaking losses. That's beyond heartbreaking there. I can't imagine.
It was brutal. Couldn't have happened to a better team than Oklahoma State. All right. I need to shout out Brown O'Haver before we start talking BYU, because Brown O'Haver paid for my way to BYU, and I appreciate it. They wanted me there in person to cover the game. Brown O'Haver is a public insurance adjusting firm, work for the insured, not the insurance company. So if you've had a loss to your home or your business that you need to file an insurance claim on, from fire, wind, theft, flood, vandalism, whatever the case may be, you want to call Brown O'Haver. 405-735-5510. Ask to speak to Kevin. Ask to speak to me. If you want some real work done, ask to speak to Jessica or Alice or Kiara. They will get you taken care of. Don't forget Jeffrey, who accurately predicted USC would finish 7-5. There's a lot of good things happening at Brown O'Haver. Give them a call, 405-735-5510. Kevin, I've gone 45 minutes without getting to talk about what was Honestly, one of the best road trips I've ever been on.
Okay, I gotta ask you this. Okay,
Go ahead.
real
Go
quick,
ahead.
let me ask you this.
I don't even know where to
I
start. So
saw.
you asked me a
Okay,
question.
I watched the broadcast. Right, they kept showing these Long John donut things that everybody in the stands seemed to have. Did you
Yeah.
get one?
Yes.
Okay, how were they? Were they as good as they looked
Unbelievable.
on TV?
They were unbelievable. Cougar tails. Cougar
Cougar
tails.
tails.
Okay, so when I was there for the Virginia game, like in 2015 or 16, whenever that was, they had cougar tails for sale, but it was like 100 degrees outside. So that didn't like jive with it. Like I had no interest in
Didn't
trying
sound
to
appealing.
like a donut. Dude, it was 44 degrees. And this thing looked, and it was warm and it was soft and it was covered in, I mean, if you like Long Johns with maple syrup, with maple icing on them, it was one of the greatest things ever. So there were 4 of us in our party. Okay. There was me, my brother-in-law, his son, and my daughter, and we got one cougar tail. And I had plenty, dude. I had plenty. It was really, really cool. This guy asked me behind, there was a BYU fan behind me. He was like, hey, so what do they have at OU games? Like, what's your, like, you know, we've got cougar tails. What do y'all have? And I'm like, I don't know, Taco Mayo. Like, I don't know what we have. Like,
Yeah, seriously, right?
hot dogs. So I was like, we don't have, I'll tell you what, we don't have cougar tails because the cougar tail was fantastic. Listen, okay. The venue. Okay. The weather ended up being pretty good. Occasional sprinkles, never really rain, maybe a little bit of rain, but was fine. Never an issue. The rain was not an issue. You got mountains in the background. You've got a fan base that, despite their team being 5-5 at that point, was rabid. Their student fans were in it. Their regular fans were in it. They had a full on. Their pregame was for a 10 a.m. kick. They had a great pregame atmosphere outside the stadium, inside the stadium. I can't go on enough. And then inside the stadium during the game, just everything that they did to kind of keep the momentum going. It was a TV game. There was a lot of timeouts, a lot of weird stuff happening. But man, they just kind of kept you in it. And despite the weather, you just never felt cold or anything. And I turned to my brother-in-law and I said, I've never really considered going to watch a college football game that didn't include Oklahoma. Like, I'm not that kind of fan that would want to go watch, just pick a team. Tulsa play SMU or something. It just, that would never get me fired up. I would go watch a BYU game. If BYU was playing, if I happened to be in Utah and BYU was playing Baylor for the in the Big 12, or just, insert big Texas Tech, wouldn't matter. I would go watch it. That's how much I enjoyed the atmosphere at BYU. Everybody was cool. Everybody was chill, but they were rabid. They were excited. And dude, it ended up being a really good game. People can look back and go, well, man, we should have, the spread was 24.5. Listen, Dylan Gabriel goes down. Dylan Gabriel was playing really well in the first half, 13 to 21, 191 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was really moving the ball really well. You have to go to Jackson Arnold, true freshman. He didn't look like Caleb Williams as a true freshman, but he made a couple of very big time plays.
He did what you needed him to do.
There was a 3rd and 13 play in the 4th quarter where he hits Farouk on a deep in route that Farouk was not open. He threw him open. It was a really arm talent was there. Step up in the pocket was there. Face the pressure and put it on a dime, and he did it. It was really, really impressive. Sawchuk backed that up with a touchdown. And then 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 was like 2.5 minutes to go, where we could have easily ran the ball. Where we ran the ball against Kansas, where we called a bad play against Kansas and a bad play against Oklahoma State. Apparently, the reports are he checked out of the play, dialed up the slant for Jalil Farouk, and hit him on a quick slant to pick up the first down. Farouk gets rocked, and he might be in concussion protocol. Holds on to the ball, first down, game over. So Arnold did what we needed him to do. Sawchuk ran for 107 yards. The best tweet of the day yesterday that I read, and I want to give the person credit. It might have been Parker Thune or it might have been Stoya. And I forgive you guys. I reposted it, so like I'm not taking credit for it. I want to make sure somebody else gets credit. But they said it's one of the weirdest paradoxes they've seen, where the defense is responsible for keeping them in the game and giving them a lead, and yet at the same time is the reason why the game is so close and giving them a chance to potentially lose. Like, that's what the defense was doing. It was a very weird game that way. So anyway, what were your thoughts watching on TV?
Okay, watching on TV, I thought the offense was good throughout, right? I thought the running game looked good with Sawchuk, who is clearly your number one running back, right?
Yeah, he looked good.
Holly Walker looked okay in his carries, but 14 for 109, and with your long being 29, it's not like most of it came on one carry either. So I thought he was consistently good. I thought the offensive line did a pretty good job in protecting Gabriel too. I thought your receiver did a pretty good job of getting open. I like the inside routes a lot. Those were there more than the downfield stuff.
They hit on a downfield one, though. They hit on a downfield to Gibson.
Correct.
A long downfield. And Jackson Arnold, in his first throw downfield, overthrew Nick Anderson by a mile, but Nick Anderson was wide open.
He was wide open. I think it was a double move.
I could have hit Nick Anderson only because I can't throw it as far as Jackson Arnold. I think Jackson Arnold, I made this comment that, Jackson Arnold's first ever, when it's you're starting as it's your team and you're starting, that first throw of the year comes against Arkansas State at home. And it's a throwaway and nobody ever sees it, But you came off cold, expecting to redshirt. Now you're in a ball game with 65,000 rabid LDS church members going crazy with their cougar tails, and you've got a guy running a guaranteed touchdown, running wide open. I think he just amped up and
you get excited.
Overthrew it.
That was not a great position for him to come into the game, right? You feel for any time a true freshman has to come in, and it's not garbage time. It's not mock duty. This is a big moment. And again, you and I were texting during the game. I just looked, and as soon as the first half starts, or the second half starts, I'm like, Jackson Arnold's in the game. The commentators didn't even know it until after the second play. They didn't even mention it until then that he was in the game. And again, they have no official word from OU yet. So I'm trying to find out what the heck is going on. I'm asking you, have you heard anything there at the stadium? Then they went back and they showed the tackle that he took, and his head bounced off the ground pretty hard. I'm like, okay. And watching it live, I thought it was a big hit, but he popped right up. But it's probably when he got to the sidelines, he probably was a little bit woozy, and they checked him out and realized that he probably had a concussion, or at least some symptoms.
I don't know where Gabriel's going to come down with Oklahoma, where he's going to kind of be remembered. Maybe it's just like the bridge quarterback, that kind of got us from Riley to whoever, or what, maybe it's Jackson, or I don't know. But he's a tough kid. I've enjoyed him being our quarterback this year. He talks a lot of trash, which I like. He backs it up. He's just so for him to pop right back up was not a surprise. But yeah, it was weird. I was at the far end, so I was in the south end zone. And when Jackson Arnold took over in the first half, it was at the north end zone. And so I'm looking at do I see what I'm seeing? Is that who I think that is? And of course, there's no other OU fans around for me to confirm that with, and I'm like, is that Jackson Arnold? Because BYU fans it was Jackson Arnold. I don't even care, So that was interesting. But I'll tell you what, defensively, Stutzman playing a flu game. Dude goes 10 tackles, 4 solo, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, and strips the guy with 8:44 in the fourth quarter that led to the Sawchuk touchdown. Are you kidding me?
He played very well. I didn't realize that he had been sick until you told me about that. But are you concerned about that run defense?
Yes.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing here. And it's not like they're running because you guys are aggressive on defense. And aggressive defense can overrun things, and you can be prone to giving up big plays on misdirection type plays. It wasn't that. They're just running inside zone over and over and over. And it's like he's 5 yards before he's even getting touched.
Well, the problem was, and Bowman, we'll talk about Bowman's play here in a second, but Bowman had 9 tackles. That's too many tackles. Too many tackles for your strong safety, free safety, whatever. 7 solo tackles, meaning that's how many touchdown-saving tackles he had. If your safety has that many solo tackles. Yes, they kept rotating in Kanik and Kip Lewis. And so it was, I thought that maybe once Lewis got in, things would get better, but then they didn't necessarily get better. I'll tell you what, BYU fan was incensed. So let's get to the Billy Bowman play. So it's still 17-17. Their running back, by the way, Aiden Robbins, who went 22 for 182. The guy was running all over.
Pop. 8.3 yards a carry.
They get the ball, and in 4 plays, they go like 78 yards, all on the ground. Okay? First and goal, the guy pulls a Jeff Levy and decides to throw a quick out. And it's like BYU, the crowd. So Billy Bowman is then running towards me. That crowd was loud all day. They were in it. They went deathly quiet. That was the quietest 100-yard return I've ever seen. It was surreal. And I'm like the only guy yelling in the state, like, go, Billy, go, Billy, go. You know, like I just was so excited. They were livid after the game.
John.
They could not believe that they would. Why? They're like, why are we throwing the ball? Why were? And I was right there with them. I didn't have an answer.
It
I
made absolutely no sense. I mean, they were running at will and got to the 2-yard line.
Yeah. I mean,
at that point, there's no way that you guys are stopping them from running the football.
It was like,
and they spread it out and run a stop route.
I had the play-by-play pulled up when we were talking about it, but they went like 22, 15, 3, 18 yards, right
there,
and then he sprints it out. And
we're watching that. I'm watching that with Casey, and he throws it. And first of all, an incredible play by Billy Bowman. And I honestly think if he doesn't make that play, I'm not sure you guys win the game.
We lose the game, right? Absolutely. Sooner Magic, 100%.
He takes it back all the way to the house. And I'm thinking, like, what the heck were you thinking calling a pass play there? It made absolutely no sense whatsoever.
How about the Jewish quarterback running him down? The Jewish quarterback attending a Mormon school, playing on a Saturday, I don't know, no judgment, and nearly running down Billy Bowman. Although, by the way, Bowman looked gassed by the time he was inside the 20. But that quarterback ran him down, dude. He was like, he got at least got a shoulder pad on him.
For sure. Yeah, he did a good job not giving up there. I was surprised that he had the angle and the speed and just the will to even attempt to run him down. If it had been about 5 yards longer, he would have got him. But
he would have got him.
Great play. And we talk about this, right? Having guys, game changers on defense. And that's a game changer.
Bowman is that guy.
He's an absolute game changer. We've seen it before, right? Last year, you're playing against in the Bedlam game, right? They're throwing to the end zone. He comes from the opposite hash and intercepts Spencer Sanders, right? Those are just big time plays. So, I'm still mad. I'm still mad because he was committed to Texas. So, yeah, I'm still mad about that. But, yeah, great play by him. He's just turned out to be an incredible player for you guys.
In his post-game interview, they said, hey, tell us what happened on that play. He's like, well, the coach called a blitz. I was supposed to blitz. He's like, but the guy was uncovered. So I was like, I better cover the guy. I'm not going to blitz. Like, made his own call.
Smart. Yeah, smart.
I mean, that's what you have to have that, right? I mean, the kid is an athlete. He's an instinctive athlete. Is he going to make mistakes? Is he going to be the best safety that's ever played at Oklahoma? No, but he's a darn good one, dude. He's like
best one we've had in a while, though.
Best one we've had in a while. Almost a good athlete as his girlfriend. Almost as good an athlete as his girlfriend. Listen, I don't know. I didn't tell Alice this, but I on the Twitter X, I said that Brown O'Haver will offer an NIL deal to their unborn children right now.
Okay, just put it on. Put it out.
Just put it out there. Men's, women's, sport doesn't matter to me. They are gonna. Can you imagine? Like, I don't know how genetics actually works, but I imagine genetics works in such a way.
You got a pretty good chance there. You got a good chance. Just like kind of from a Texas standpoint here. Remember Aaron Ross, our cornerback on the national championship team? We know he's married to Sonia Richards, who is an Olympic. She won the gold medal in the 400.
It's unbelievable.
And they have a son now. I'm like, yeah, we just keep an eye on him in a few years. About, 12 years.
You have to, man. You have to. Listen, Arch Manning, they talk about him coming from genes, and it's fine. Whatever. Dude, Jada Coleman, Billy Bowman genes are just a little different. I mean, holy crap.
Yeah, I'm not sure who Arch's mom is, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, long story short, I'm you know what? I didn't even talk about this. I lost the pick. You lost the pick. You actually went 3-2 on picks. You went 3-2. You were 36, 22-2. I went 1-4. Just a really bad week for me. Only win was Georgia. I the game was. I will tell you the one kind of bad part about the stadium and everything is their turf was terrible. I don't know if you could tell.
Oh,
On
that
television.
field. No, that was one of the worst fields I've ever seen. This is big time college football, and it's 2023.
They got to get it fixed.
BYU cannot have a field like that,
They got to get it
especially
fixed.
in the Big 12 now. Come on,
Dude,
man.
they had receivers in motion falling down.
Yeah, several times.
Yeah.
Several times. Listen, they got to call your guy because whoever does OU setting, you guys do a good job. Your turf stays, even with the horrible weather we have here, right? Or they got to switch the turf. One of the two has to happen, but it can't be like that.
No.
You're the play suffers, and then you're gonna have guys that are tearing and pulling their groins, slipping and sliding on that field. Can't happen.
Yeah.
Can't happen. You're a big time program, BYU.
Outside of that, the food was great. Went to a kolache place in the morning. Went to an El Salvadorian place in the afternoon after the game. Went to Moochie's on Friday night, where they have a world famous featured on dine-in drivers and dives. What's it called? Whatever.
Oh yeah, diners, drive-in, and dives. Yeah.
Yeah, with Guy Fieri, just a freaking tremendous meatball sub. Anyway, Utah's a really great place to visit. I will say this though, and people from Austin that are listening to this podcast will understand and appreciate it. Is it's been a lot of California people have since moved there over the last 10 years. So when I visited, like even in 2016, it felt open. It felt, not as much traffic. It was like, man, it's gonna be a great place to live. Dude, it's filled in. There's been a lot of people coming from California. Crazy. And the problem is it's in a valley, right? So there's only so much growth that can happen east to west. So kind of everything goes north to south and just kind of creates some traffic was kind of ugly and stuff. But
it's different. Yeah, it's crazy how cities change so quick.
I would love if we could get a home and home with BYU. Like, it was really enjoyable. And also one other thing, and then we'll talk about Texas. I think I sent it to you, and I don't know did you see, or did I send you the video that BYU produced on the Selman brothers?
No, not at all. I haven't seen it.
Oh, all right. I'll forward it to you after this. But for everybody else, check my Twitter, check Twitter, wherever you get your stuff. BYU actually produced a video on the Selman brothers. They created it. They interviewed the two living Selman brothers, Dewey and Lucius, Zach Selman, the current AD at Mississippi State, Barry Switzer, Barry Trammell, the guy working for the Sellout. It was so well done, dude, and it appealed to so many fans for all the right reasons. The Selman brothers, they're a good story. Everybody knows that. They're Oklahoma royalty, but just the way that BYU perceived them was really, really cool. Just another really classy thing that BYU does. It just makes you like, why aren't we playing these guys more? Because we're going to miss, you're not going to get that at the SEC. LSU isn't producing a video of your, historic figures in your league. You know what I mean? They're throwing corn dogs at you and throwing beer on top of you. So it's just going to be a little different in the SEC. But yeah, I'll forward it to you, but you need to check it out. And for all you listeners out there are watching, make sure you check it out. It was it's 8 minutes long, nothing too crazy. Really, really well done video. Kevin, we're already running long again, but we got to finish up with Texas. A huge win for you guys. We've already talked about it. Quinn looked good. CJ Baxter looked good. Your receivers look good. Sweat is making a case to be a first-team All-American. Give me your biggest takeaway from that game, and give me what you think it's going to take to beat Tech on Friday.
Yeah, man, it just seems like the program is just maturing, right? We're getting these wins in these situations where we don't normally get these wins, right? We don't normally finish out the TCU game. We don't beat K-State. We don't win this game on the road in this kind of environment this late in the season, right? We've seen it with Charlie Strong. We saw it with Coach Tom Herman. We've even seen it with the first 2 years under Sark, right? We get into these situations where everything is on the line and we just cannot handle the pressure. And what I'm seeing is just a maturation and just a program developing. It's really cool to see. The recruiting is good. Yeah, I was just really impressed by the team yesterday, just really in all three phases of the game. Glad to be done playing Iowa State, right? They've been a thorn in our side.
Yes.
I'm
Both.
sure Sooner fan can say
Yeah.
the exact same thing, right? Matt Campbell was giving us all hell. So glad to be moving on from them and looking forward to this Tech game. Joey McGuire is going to have everything ready to go for us, but we got to be ready. Like Sark said, right? We got to give them our best shot and be the aggressor when it comes to playing against them, because we know that with them at their best against us at our best, it's not close. So we got to handle business and get to Arlington the next week.
Listen, you've answered the bell. You've answered the bell every time. It's Texas Tech. You should beat Texas Tech. They're not any good. Like, you should beat Texas Tech. I just for Oklahoma, it's not even a matter of rooting against you, because it doesn't matter for us. We need an Oklahoma State loss. So for the sake of the podcast, I'm saying just go beat Texas Tech. Like, answer the bell one last time.
Correct.
But the OU fan in me, who's maybe not a host of a podcast that features Texas, is thinking, I don't know if I trust it yet. I don't even know if you trust it yet. But if Quinn does and that team does, I think you go ahead and you beat Texas Tech at home.
Yeah, just handle business, right? Run the ball, make big plays in the passing game, play good defense like you've been doing. I don't care what the score looks like, man. Covering a point spread, whatever. Even though we did cover against Iowa State, just win the game. Win the game, get to Arlington, see how it goes, and see where we end up. If we end up in a bowl game or somehow slip into the college football playoff, again, my expectation for them going into the season was just to win the Big 12. They're in a position to do that. Let's make it happen.
To all the listeners out there, it's going to be a weird week. I'm not sure when we're going to get you a preview episode, but we will do our best to get you a preview episode, because it's a big game for Texas. For Oklahoma, a chance to go 10-2 and kind of right the ship in terms of the direction the program's heading against TCU at home. So we will figure it out. We will get you the content you've been looking for. But for all you out there who've been listening, thank you so much for continuing to listen. Like it, share it, subscribe it, whatever it is you're supposed to do. We appreciate you guys. Kevin, enjoy the rainy afternoon. Enjoy the football on TV. And we'll talk later this week. Boomer.
Okay.